Today we're going to talk about adapting your TV package for the web, which is the next assignment. And I saw it was coming up a little too soon, so I delayed it until November 15th, which I think that's 2 weeks from today. And that should easily give you enough time to digest what we're working on and then do it to your TV package. So we'll spend a little time looking through the various learning materials that we've got on this. So we've got a PowerPoint here from the chapter 8 of the textbook, which is pretty interesting. And some other stuff. We have an example of some fine student work. Hi, Variety.
Hi.
And we have the assignment itself. Okay, so first of all, why are we doing this? Well, let's recap. We started off doing the radio version of your story, and then we wrote it into a TV package. And if you were working at a television station, especially in a small market, which is where most of our graduates would get a job if they went to start working in television news, you're pretty much bound to be the person who takes your TV package and rewrites it to work up on the web. It's part of the job now if you're working in broadcast journalism that you're going to produce for video, but you're also probably going to produce for the web too. So with that in mind, we have some pointers today about how to quickly adapt your material which was produced for video support and have it up on a website. And for that, we can also look over some examples of NBC Bay Area does investigative reporting, so they do longer form 6 to 10 minute long packages, and they also repurpose them to work on their website as well. So we can look at some current examples, just like we've done for each step of this reporting exercises we do. So, but first off, hi Michaela. Michaela, we're recording this one actually, so just FYI. First off, I just wanted to show you some very interesting research done on how audiences actually read web pages. So this is an eye tracking survey done by the BBC on one of their websites. Just because it's possible that people read web stories a little bit differently than they read print stories or consume video as well. So this has no sound, but as you can see, the red dot is where the reader is looking. So first off, headings are important, and also the eye is drawn to pictures as well. So they scan in a sort of non-linear fashion, but they tend to jump from pictures to headlines. And sooner or later, this person's going to find a story that interests them.
Just a quick question. How are they exactly tracking someone's eye motion?
Pair of glasses with sensors inside so they can see where someone's moving. And they're half reflective, so the subject can see through the glasses.
Right.
But also cameras can see what they're looking at.
But the things just look like a regular pair of glasses. That's all that.
Indeed, Eric. Let's look at what the research does, because the subject has actually chosen the story and is now reading in a linear fashion. Whoops! They're distracted by the video, which is a pretty freaky story about an octopus that actually lives inside of a cast-off shell from some other sea animal. And actually carries the shell around with it from one place to another.
It says it's a shell from a coconut.
Thank you, Michaela. So clearly we're focused on video for a while.
Intelligent creatures.
Trying to get really close. Sorry.
Oh, okay, we jumped off the video. Thanks to the heading, the reader was able to jump into another part of the story, sort of knew where they were. And now reading in a linear fashion.
And to
Slow
reread
though.
that one.
Sorry?
He had to reread that
Yeah,
paragraph.
that's part of one of the advantages, right?
Well, we were trying to read it.
That's awesome.
Back up again.
Really interesting.
It was off the shelf. Right on the shelf? I think it
Octopuses.
is.
If it were Latin, it would be, but I think it's an English word now. So it's probably either is fine.
Check out that picture.
That's a hard sentence to digest, I guess.
No. Well, the page just scrolled down, so we're still doing linear reading.
It kind of looks like it skipped, but made a mistake.
Did not stick to one subject.
The page actually scrolled up because the reader is reading down. I think.
They're probably knowing that they're doing
I feel like you're getting into someone's head a little bit when you
Yeah, really.
check this out. Yeah. I'm not used to seeing how people read stuff.
It's a little slow though.
Oh, that's it. Eye tracking demo. So, what kind of conclusions could you draw from that brief demonstration of how people read?
Their eyes are kind of all over the place.
Okay. Well, there were, I do agree there's a certain amount of jumping around and scanning, and then there's also linear reading at the same time. Right? Other takeaways from that? Michelle?
You were also saying that there's a relationship between visual imagery kind of enticing the reader to go to certain points of the story based on those images, and you kind of see how that happened even to the point where they were reading and then something happened in the video that caught their eye and then that was it. They went straight back to the video, which then engaged them to look at the shell, going back into the shell. That's when the reader went to how they made an escape and, what was it increased their curiosity of like, why are they doing what they're doing?
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. It's just a certain amount of back and forth there between the image and then back to the text, and being able to return to a particular place in the text because of the layout of the page. And that seemed to me to be the majority of it was that. And just here in the beginning, we can see more of the scanning behavior as the reader's looking for a story that interests them, basically. And so they're going on pages, they're going on headlines, and sort of going all over the place.
It's hard to say because it's just one individual too, but it does seem to spend more time on text than on images.
True.
But it's probably because they're like looking for keywords or
Yeah.
something that like piques their
They're just
interest.
scanning.
Yeah.
I wonder also with a different website, like a website that had better, bigger images, if it would be completely different.
More visual content might draw them away. Yeah.
When they went from the text to the video, it seemed like the words helped them figure out why they wanted to read it, but then they needed to see it to believe it. Like the words maybe weren't enough.
Uh-huh.
It sure makes it seem like any article is probably going to be stronger if it has
some
a
images. as
video, some eye-catching stuff, and it's about an octopus using a tool.
Yeah, it'd be
Pretty
cool
cool.
if you knew what the sound was, because then you could know if maybe there was like a kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we
Because,
have
like,
any.
I don't know about everyone else, but, like, I'd often click a video and then keep reading, and then I might hear something that makes you go back. So I don't know if it's because they were reading something that made them go back or because they heard something.
Yeah.
Alfonso, you had
Like
your
to know
hand
that
up,
the
and then
video
Howard?
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah. Or,
agree
like,
with what
to-
she said. There
you
was
know
a,
you're following
it was a
what they're
different
saying, you
page
hear noise.
because it's they're searching through a lot of verbatim. So if
Yeah.
there was something more specific picture with correlating more with what's down below,
Yeah.
they would get to what they to the meat that they want to eat. So to speak, to the meat of the article.
Right. I mean, I guess they are, they're, the BBC has hired that kind of, they're doing that kind of research to see what, how people actually read the stuff that they publish. If I look at the NBC station website, for instance, so this is today's version, and certainly the splash page, got a lot of headlines, we've got some images, which I'm sure they pick the stories that they want to feature. They'll put up a thumbnail rather than just leave it as a line of text. I mean, I think it's a fair bet that we're more likely to be attracted to a story that has an image thumbnail, possibly. Again, not based on research. Howard, you wanted to say something. What were you
I was
gonna
just
say?
gonna say, I noticed that when the eyes focused on the octopus in the video,
Uh-huh.
it watched almost all of it, but before it was over, it cut away to reading the text again.
Yeah.
And, you don't know why, but there's a little bit of impatience with the video, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, is that consistent with our idea of just web consumption in general, sort of?
That it's impatient.
Yeah.
It's
Which,
written 46 characters.
Raphael?
I was kind of wondering why at times that the pages seemed a little cluttered, right? So I've seen designs for different sites where they're trying to convey information, and sometimes it doesn't have like all these different sections cluttered here, cluttered there, cluttered here, cluttered there. And it sort of seems like at first the reader was like, look for this, look for this, look for that, like just struggling to find something decent, or at least something to catch his or her attention.
Yeah.
I think if it was streamlined a little better, where the information was a little bit easier to see, maybe it wouldn't have been so frantic in the beginning. At least that's my thoughts.
Okay. I don't know what the takeaway that the BBC had after seeing this type of stuff. But my idea was, because one of our SLOs is sort of to analyze aesthetic issues of writing for different media, I thought, well, here's some actual research that was done on this aesthetic issue. If I dip into the textbook at this point, what they tell us in the textbook is that web readers skim the content, look for different points of entry, and look for extra information if the story interests them. So these are just some ideas about web readers, but especially skimming for content. I think we saw that in the beginning, where they spent some time looking around, looking for a story of interest. And honestly, if I take my own experience, go to the New York Times or whatever I subscribe to, and just check out the splash page and then decide what am I going to read if I read anything. So that fits with what I do. So how can we help them then look for points of entry and skim the content effectively? They also tell us that top left content in our culture anyway that's where people tend to begin. So what do they tell us? Readers that click on a story tend to read most of it. 63% actually read through the story completely. So that's only 2/3 of the people who will make it down to the end of your story. That speaks to what Howard was talking about, I think, the impatience of the reader, maybe. Online readers may read in a linear or non-linear fashion. Some read from start towards the end, some jump around. Both groups read about the same amount of the story. Well, that's a comfort. At least most people are reading 2/3 of your story. So, some ideas about how people use the web. So, based on that, what the textbook suggests, web writing style. For broadcast writers in particular, these are some of the things to think about as you adapt your TV package for the web. First off, grab attention with your first line of copies, so that's still the lead. The principle of the lead still carries over to web writing. Be sure to use present or future tense in the opening line. So hang on a sec. This doesn't quite follow on what I'm thinking about. The very last line here, write for the scanners. Use subheads, bullets, and short paragraphs. So I think this is what we've just, sort of proven to ourselves, that if the reader is going to read in a non-linear fashion or jump around, then if we can give them clearly navigatable, structured story, that will help them, for instance, go off, watch a bit of the video, and then be able to return to the right paragraph and read through that paragraph, pick up where they left off, basically. So if people see huge blocks of text, it's harder to find your way in that than if we have short blocks of text with subheadings. So that is one thing that is advocated when writing for web style. And again, if we look at, for instance, some of the stories in our example, which is the NBC site, loads up, maybe slow. Here we go. Yeah, let's just look at this one, the Soda Wars. The so-called grocery tax. It's loaded up. And you can see their paragraphs are running 1 to 2 sentences. When they use a quote, they set it off in a separate
one
paragraph.
side calls it a soda tax, but the other a grocery tax.
There we go. And we can look at the video in a sec. Some bullet points in there, which are actually links out to different surveys. And not a lot of subheadings in this story, but definitely short paragraphs. So one thing you can do to help the reader kind of find their way around is break things up into 1, 2, maybe 3 sentence paragraphs and keep them short, and set off your quotes.
I mean, that's a pretty good point, because if somebody really wanted to read, they could read a book, right? The web is a totally different format across all kinds of different...
Yeah, I mean...
Because it doesn't seem like people really want to read along. If they want to get to something, they want something short. I agree with that.
Cool.
People's attention spans are very small, right?
Well, I wouldn't judge. I mean, some people want to go for a long read if it's a topic that they're interested in, or if they're, and comparatively, I don't know, this might take a few minutes to actually read this entire story.
See, that's what people don't want to do sometimes. Is take that time.
Yeah. Certainly, if you give it to them in smaller chunks, that can help them consume it. Less intimidating, easier to navigate around, find which way they're going.
I think even for people that can read exceptionally quickly, I think even they would prefer having it in shorter chunks, because you do get the information out a little bit quicker. Why take 20 words to say something you can say in 5 or so? Why overcomplicate it if you need be? Keep the facts in there, but try to keep it the information streamlined, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you read it, you'll find that it's written in the same sort of conversational tone that we've been advocating, for broadcast writing. It's not super highly compressed or more efficient, but just the way that it's laid out makes it easier to navigate, I think. That's it. Bridie?
I have my did my final assignment for Terry's class, which is podcasting, and we had to upload our podcast and create a podcast site. So I did mine, and I got followers the same day, the same night after I uploaded it. So I was really shocked to even have a follower that soon, because it came to my email and everything. But I did the phone call of Sophia, and that's what I used for my podcast for Terry's class. You know, the same thing I was going to use for your class. And I guess maybe people like the interview because it was live, and I put in there when I wrote it out, I said this is our very first interview podcast. We're live. We're going to have a live phone conversation with, you know, Sophia Stewart. So that's what I put on there. That was the small line, and maybe that's what caught people. Maybe that's what caught a person's eye, and it was live, and they listened to it, and they followed me, and then they say click on them, follow them back. So I followed them too. So.
Cool. Well, that's something you can do on the web, right? The whole engagement aspect that, you know, here we go. Down here, people can leave comments.
Right.
They can, you know, so yeah, that's one of the other advantages.
Yeah, and the other thing that I did with you from the summer with Flo, for the YouTube, I've been getting comments, because at first I had like 11 people that saw it, and then I'll have almost like 1,000 now that saw it and have some comments and stuff.
Yeah.
And people seem to like that. I was like, oh, that's all right, that's cool, you know.
All right.
So
Okay.
yeah, picks
Great.
up.
So, keeping on with just advice for rewriting your TV package for the web. So keep the conversational tone. Readers don't bother reading stuff that's too long. So this is talking to your intuitions. Write for the scanners. So break the text up with headings and subheadings. Use plain and simple headlines, okay? Short paragraphs, break things up with bullet points, because people are attracted to the bullet points. So this point about the headlines, someone who's scanning a story doesn't necessarily want to puzzle out what they're going to learn paragraph by paragraph. So if you're using subheadings to sort of help them navigate through the story, make those subheadings just as clear and simple as you can, rather than tease. You know, there's an idea that every headline on the web is going to be sort of clickbait. You know, it's like create a mystery so someone will have to click through and find out what you're saying, right? That's such a cliche. But in a story like this, what you want to do is just direct the reader to, okay, what am I going to learn in this paragraph? Maybe I don't care about that, but if I scan further down and see the next heading, I'll find out what I'll learn there, you know? And so it's an argument for just making very clear headlines in your subheadings and not teasing anything, just to make it easier for the reader to get around. Yeah, Howard?
I keep thinking this. What if you actually have something complex to present? I mean, if you know what I mean, where you really the reader won't understand the fourth point unless they've gone 1, 2, 3, 4. You know? Like I was looking at that story about the grocery tax, just reading some of it, and it was about somebody who had appeared in a commercial for the soda business ads, but then had been educated by people and now realized it's not a grocery tax, it's a soda tax. So there was obviously a whole chain of events that you had to kind of follow through. I wonder if maybe that's why it wasn't broken up with subheads and that sort of thing.
Well, NBC, that site doesn't use subheads. In fact, in some of the other stories, it's kind of weird. They put links into other stories that they've
I noticed there were a lot of links in that one too, yeah.
It's kind of weird.
But it's tough.
I think what basically is if you find yourself lost, I guess you go back and actually, okay,
Right.
if I care about this, then I'll backtrack and try to find out where I need to begin in order to find stuff out.
Right.
Yeah. But it still was using, you know, short sentences and such.
Right. Short paragraphs.
Short paragraphs,
found
that's what I meant.
That's the type of story that benefits from a graphic, like a list that says like 1, 2, 3, 4, and lists the most important points, and then elaborates on them in the story.
That'd be a good strategy to organize that. Yeah. there's a second story. Raphael, did you have a point as I'm
Oh,
webbing around?
no, it's just, this reminds me of how when some people I've been seeing writing blogs or so, these sort of tend to, kind of cut it simple like that at times.
You mean
Which
short paragraphs?
use short paragraphs, use headline or subsection.
Subheadings? Okay, good. So a similar kind of stylistic thing. You know, there's excellent classes in, online journalism here and stuff. So I'm really just trying to stick to adapting content from broadcast to the web. But, there's some overlap there. And so here is a story. We can go back to the grocery story if you like. This one about ocean life, but looking through here we have longer paragraphs. We've got subheadings this time. A lot of graphics. And also, we did have, also some, we've got a table embedded here. Further up, we've got something with several tabs about animals that are being impacted by this. So presumably this is additional material that's going to grab your eye as well, and also present the kind of data which is harder to put up onto a television show. What's actually, would you guys prefer the grocery story or the sea life story?
Grocery.
Grocery? Grocery. Let's go back to groceries. And
I keep hearing that soda tax one a lot, I think.
They really are charging tax on groceries because I bought something from the deli and they charged me something for a sub, but it was trying to be hidden tax or some sort of hidden tax.
I think if it's to-go food, they have to charge tax, but the soda tax, grocery tax hasn't passed yet, so I wonder.
It's not this one.
If it's prepared food, then
Yeah.
they tax
that's
it.
the wrong one.
Yeah,
And if it's just,
it was prepared, the soda, well, it was already
like a
wrapped.
sandwich or something like that, then that's,
Yeah,
that gets taxed.
It was wrapped already.
Oh, yeah.
So, weird point about sodas, whenever there's a tax that happens.
Please, can we stick to
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But why have I got no audio here?
Help?
Well,
Got taxed. Don't get it out of California.
audio is up on the player.
SUV or whatever that is, CRV.
Audio is up on the computer.
Weird.
I've been hearing audio come through different tabs. Why not through this one?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I
My tab. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raphael.
I didn't do anything this time.
There's a political war going on
Sorry.
over soda, and this little Oakland market is caught right in the middle of it.
They tried to use me and use the business.
Taylor Waja says soda company reps convinced him that the soda tax, if passed, could force him to raise the prices on all his groceries.
When they told you it was a grocery tax, were they lying to you?
Yeah. So you find out later it was too late.
What do small business?
Soon, he found himself part of a $22.5 million campaign to fight the tax measure. According to records filed with the San Francisco Ethics Foundation, that's what the American Beverage Association has spent to defeat the tax.
The last thing Oakland needs is a tax on groceries. It will hurt my customers, my business, and my community.
You would say right now it's definitely not a grocery tax, though.
It's not a grocery tax, no, it's not. It's more about the soda and stuff like that to educate the kids.
As currently written, the measure calls for a 1 cent per 1 ounce tax on sugar-sweetened beverages distributed within city limits. For example, a 2-liter bottle of soda has 68 ounces, so the tax would be 68 cents.
We believe this is a grocery tax.
Joe Ariano is the spokesperson for a Bay Area coalition to defeat the tax, which is funded largely by the American Beverage Association.
It is in fact meant to tax soda, not groceries. Are you confusing the issue?
Absolutely not.
Ariano says that in order to keep soda prices low, stores told his group they might raise other prices.
70% said we're going to spread this cost across all the different grocery items in our stores. That's what makes better business sense for us.
Were grocers who appeared in some of these ads on behalf of your clients, the soda industry, were they misled?
Absolutely not. We respectfully, give them the right to obviously have their own opinion. That's part of what makes democracy so great.
They just approached me off the street, really.
Gianfranco DeSciullo and his parents run an Italian deli in San Francisco. He was happy to be in the commercials because he's been against the tax all along. He says the soda industry did not pay him to be in the ads, but he did get invited to see a Giants game from the Coca-Cola suite at AT&T Park.
Yeah, it was a black suite. It was beautiful. I've never been in a suite before.
Their strategy and their campaign is really a campaign of sugar-coated lies.
San Francisco Supervisor Malia Cohen placed the tax measure on the November ballot. She's joined with health advocates and former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg to raise $13.3 million for their own campaign in support of the tax.
It's in our best interest to be putting a tax on the distributor that is distributing poison.
Cohen says she gets her inspiration and her science from this man. Dr. Robert Lustig is a pediatric endocrinologist at UCSF, specializing in childhood obesity. For decades, he's been leading a crusade to warn customers about the dangers of a high-sugar diet.
So what happens if you drink too much alcohol? What happens is you fry your liver. Well, guess what? If you drink too much soda, you fry your liver for the same reason.
The grocers we talked with agree with fighting obesity.
However, passing on a grocery tax onto small city vendors such as myself does not do the job. Why use me? You're a huge corporation, or you're the city. Do something else. You have the money. You have the power to go do something else.
Now, critics of this proposal also say that because all the money currently goes into a general fund, it can be used for anything by politicians, from pensions to potholes. But supporters of this measure say Berkeley's soda tax works the same way and has been successful in reducing consumption, and that Berkeley officials are currently spending every dollar on educating poor communities and kids about healthier diets with less sugar and less soda. Raj, Jessica?
Very educational. Thank you very much, Stephen. Now, if you have a tip for Stephen or anyone in the investigative unit, give us a call. 888-996-TIPS or send us an email to the unit at NBC.
How does it begin? Yeah, let's just see.
Okay, one side calls it a soda tax, but the other a grocery tax. If you're confused, you're certainly not alone. Now, if you live in San Francisco, Oakland, or Albany, you're being bombarded by conflicting messages about this proposition on the November ballot. So we sent senior investigative reporter Stephen Stock to dig into what's behind all the political rhetoric, Stephen. It's really hard to figure out.
It is indeed, Jessica. We found millions of dollars pouring into the Bay Area from around the country, trying to shape your opinion and win your vote on this one issue. Tonight, we reveal exactly what's driving the big money and the tactics behind these two campaigns. There's a political war going on over soda, and this little Oakland market is caught right in the middle of it.
They tried to use me and use the business.
Tamer what?
Okay, let's just see how this translated into the actual story. So Tamer has been building his grocery business in Oakland for the past 14 years. Okay. Just looking through here, this is interesting. It doesn't, the story just dives right in. There doesn't seem to be a lead or much context given here. It dives right into basically all the information we got from the anchor's lead and from the reporter's stand-up is gone. And we're right into the interview with the small business owner.
Is it kind of like touching up on things that weren't said in the video? Because it looks like it says he's talking about how long he's run his store.
Yeah.
It seems like it's mentioned in the video.
I don't know if they actually mentioned it in the video.
14.
But reps convinced him that the soda tax, if passed, could force him to raise the prices on all his groceries.
When they told you it was a grocery tax, were they lying to you?
Yeah. till you find out later it's too late.
What do small business?
Soon, he found himself part of a $22.5 million campaign to fight the tax measure. According to records filed with the San Francisco Ethics Foundation, that's what the American Beverage Association has spent to defeat the tax.
The last thing Oakland needs is a tax on groceries. It will hurt my customers, my business, and my community.
You would say right now it's definitely not a grocery tax, though.
It's not a grocery tax, no, it's not. It's more about the soda and stuff like that to educate the kids.
As currently written, the measure calls for a 1 cent per 1 ounce tax on sugar-sweetened beverages distributed within city limits. For example, a 2-liter bottle of soda has 68 ounces, so the tax would be 68 cents.
We believe this is a grocery tax.
Joe Ariano is the spokesperson for a Bay Area coalition to defeat the tax, which is funded largely by the American Beverage Association.
It is in fact meant to tax soda, not groceries. Are you confusing the issue?
Absolutely not.
Ariano says that in order to keep soda prices low, stores told his group they might raise other prices.
This is cognitively challenging, but what I'm seeing is pretty much the same linear progression in the story. You can see the SOTs have been taken out, especially a couple of them are verbatim. The SOTs have turned into quotes. And the same sourcing with slightly different language, I guess. What are you guys seeing? Am I catching the main ones, Alfonso?
I'm just kind of curious about that link that it says in blue. It says there's the whole text of the interview. It says something like that.
The text of the
It says something about
the
You
measure.
can read the full,
I'm not sure.
full
Probably.
text of the
I don't
measure.
understand what that was.
Yeah.
Here it is, yeah.
What is that? Like the
It's the
oh,
whole
okay.
thing.
It's a PDF of the measure that is, so you can actually go in and,
Oh, okay.
right, read the whole thing.
Oh.
So they do this quite often with NBC, the investigative stories. They'll put a lot of pertinent links. If they have documents that they can actually publicly share, they'll do it, which is what I call a web extra, basically. So these are the things that you could supply, which really, there's no other platform. You couldn't, in the television story, you'll have a little graphic of, oh, here's a report or something, but here you can actually link through and actually read the report, which is, part of the strengths of the web. Johanna?
I'm just curious, so really the only difference, you could pretty much watch the video and get the same gist of the story without some of the links. That's really the only difference.
I wouldn't confirm that. I think it depends on each story. And
No, I just mean in this particular story, that's how
I think in this particular story, it's a
that's kind of
pretty,
not a strong example of what you
it's
would
a
want.
pretty close adaptation.
Yeah,
Well,
but that's not really what you're after, though.
I would
is it?
say it's an excellent example of the basic level of adaptation that I want, which is,
Okay.
take your TV package and almost mechanically go to your SOTs and pull them out and turn them into quotes. Then you're free to follow the linear storytelling pattern of your TV package as closely as you would like. My argument is once you've done that work, eventually, why are your readers going to go to the web to see just in textual form what was already in the TV package? No, there should be something more that you could offer. So at that point, I agree with you that maybe I haven't even been through this entirely to know if they've added some extra content, but I think that the next step is to add a little bit more depth and detail. And I think, were you going to say that, Alfonso? Okay. And I think somebody else, was it you or was it Raphael who was saying, we learned that he's had his store for 14 years or something. There's much more, I guess it was you, Alfonso, there's much more detail possible in a written form.
And then also including more, like, the links to this, or graphics for that, or, okay.
Exactly. That is, another thing that you can do with the web is that you can provide a little bit more depth and detail, and you can also link to pertinent things. Now, in this case, they've got a number of different goodies that they can offer. So these are surveys. These are surveys done with grocers to find out what they intend to do with the additional tax that's being levied. So, this might even be sort of industry-led surveys. I'm I'm not really sure. Here's another link. Where does this one go to? Okay,
What do
this.
small business owners think about the proposed San Francisco grocery tax?
Targeting us being a small business, we don't need another tax.
So this one links out to the industry-sponsored ad campaign, which is, calling it the grocery tax, etc. Alfonso?
So like, I guess this is just an idea. So like, that tied in like a proposition, right? Was that a proposition video? I didn't really get it.
I'm so ignorant of local
So,
government.
I guess that's what
maybe
my
someone
point
could help
was.
me out, but
That
they're
one
calling it a
was-
measure.
That one was the one of the videos that's
Supporting
Okay.
the tax.
I
Yeah.
think it was to defeat, to say no.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because-
with the
It was
opposing.
put out
Or,
by the
yeah,
voters.
yeah.
Okay. I guess what my point was is that you could, I guess, tie that with your package or your web package, because I guess what I'm doing, this is kind of like almost the same thing where people are against something or there's a proposition to keep City College open, and I noticed a link so that I guess there's something on the ballot that's for the college because it's economical for people and the cheapest way to get an education in San Francisco. So that's what made me think about my web package, how
Got
they
it.
link that. So I'm just trying to think of,
So what this is inspiring is,
Yeah.
you know that there's material out there
Yeah.
that you could link to that is
Yeah, that's what I was
pertinent,
thinking.
that will provide more information or
statistics,
context.
graphs, you can use stuff like that too, right?
Exactly,
Okay, just making
right,
sure.
exactly. Except I thought your story was on the paint stores, but you can definitely.
Now I'm getting
change-
confused because I just did something.
You did the PSA,
Yeah,
right,
so
okay.
now we're going back to the
Okay,
the paint's
but what I
okay.
should make clear, yeah,
All
is,
right.
is
I
I'm
was
expecting
almost
you guys
thinking
to
of City
adapt your
College thing,
TV
okay.
package. Again, if you're fed up with the story that you followed in your TV package, you're free to change, but,
I kind of want to do that because I'm more into the City College thing, and I started seeing things on the web that kind of.
okay, it's just it's a lot more work, that's
I know,
all for
okay.
you, yeah.
I don't know. Let me think.
You're not afraid of work.
All right.
Okay. So, and more links again to UC Berkeley study. They've got a lot of links in here that are pertinent. So that is interesting. So let's try to come back to some ideas that will sum up what we're after, and then just take a look at the actual assignment. So, checklist, adapting broadcast to web. This is sort of the, first approach. So number one, add quotes, change the sound bites to quotes, adding correct punctuation and attribution. So that I noticed in the web version of the grocery tax story, that changed a little bit too. We had, a little SOT from Joe Ariano, and then he was introduced in the web story, whereas when we went into print, he was actually introduced before the SOT. So you may, have to adjust your attribution once you move from TV package to web. Or it may work fine, but just bear in mind that that's an area that you need to look at. So take your SOTs, turn them into quotes, look at your attribution. Number two, right, for broadcast, we've been very conversational. Sentence fragments were okay as long as they sounded natural. But now that you're moving it into textual form, take a look at your sentences. Make sure that they read like grammatically correct and complete sentences, each one a thought, rather than a fragment. Number three, okay, if you have told your story effectively through using B-roll, unfortunately now it's time to come back and take a look at it and say, I no longer have a guarantee that people are going to see those images when I want them to see them. I can include those images in my story, but people may jump around and get to them whenever. So you need to rewrite your story. If you've made use of the B-roll, you need now to go back and kind of describe it in textual form so that that informational gap is filled in. Eric, did you have a comment?
I was gonna say, then wouldn't it kind of be more effective to kind of go back to the radio package?
Except that I'm doing
Because
this.
it's not, because again, if
Point number 3 that I just made would be irrelevant, right? Because
Right.
there's no visual information there in the radio package. So my idea is that every television station does what we're doing now. I'm not sure which radio stations actually do this. To take a radio feature and textualize it like this. I don't know.
Okay.
So you're certainly free to go back into your radio version of your story. Perhaps it's written out more in the kind of language you
Yeah,
want
that's
to
what I was
use.
gonna say.
Yeah.
Like, if it's already fleshed out in the radio package, I was gonna say like.
Go right ahead. Yeah.
No, wouldn't
But
that be
the
just an easier way
concept
to
of
do it?
this whole assignment is because this is something that people do a lot in television, I'm working off it. But like I'm thinking of Johanna's story, which again, remember what we were saying is that, it's so beautifully written, but it's almost, written more extensively than you would write for TV package. But to bring it back to textual form, I think it's already there, So in terms
That's
of
what I was thinking, because I think I'm hearing what you're saying too. 'Cause It's
Right.
almost like going back and you could copy and paste because it was so detailed for radio.
Right, yeah.
And some of your quotes, also because of what of our content isn't necessarily a video that we actually shot or, some of it's interviews that we did over the phone. So it's easy to manipulate it however you want, but if you're actually really doing it, that's all you've got is
Gotcha.
that video interview that you did or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see how, and I think it's also a good, just for me, it would be a nice practice taking it from step to step to step, because otherwise, how are you going to learn how to speak to each medium really effectively?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I also think it's at this far along in the semester to start on a whole new story is it's a lot of work.
Difficult.
Come up with 450 words or something. So, but again, you started your research on the PSA. So if you want to change,
No, I think
wanna do
it
that
would be
extra
smarter
work.
for me to. I was jumping to it differently.
I've always tried to make it so that the reporting is basically on the same story, but we just do it in a different medium, precisely for what Johanna was saying, so we get a sense of, okay, this has to change now.
Yeah, I learned a lot doing that from writing the TV package, especially like under the gun. Like I really realized, wow, this is not that easy.
Cool.
You only have X amount of time to take what you've got and adapt it for a certain way. Like it wasn't easy for me.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. Raphael?
And also, like in my situation, for instance, where I was missing some information, like also according to what we had in the group that I took out, I can just rewrite that back in
Right,
or
you don't have
clarify,
those-
which is fantastic.
You don't have those time constraints anymore that were forcing you to take stuff out. Yeah. Right.
Which I full-heartedly took out important information, which was my bad, but you guys pointed it out, so thank you.
Cool.
You said on that step number 3, it says remove video. Are we using images, stills of the video, nothing like that? Just a question.
Yeah, there's a requirement for one multimedia element, so you can definitely put in a still or a picture, whatever you like. So let's just get through this list, and then I'll look through the assignment actually as it is. But so the point of number 3 is just you no longer have video, so you have to be more descriptive. If the video was carrying essential information that is missing now, you have to add that in. Number 4, add important details. So if there was, it says web copy should deliver more information than a 2-minute TV story, which is precisely what Raphael was just talking about. You have the opportunity to bring back information that you may have cut. And 5, bring it all together. Make sure the story reads well from beginning to end. So just once again, in your text version, you don't necessarily have a lockout and an anchor returning to sort of bring your story to a close. So now you're writing a piece that basically will stand alone, and you're also not stuck with the inverted pyramid either, because your story is not necessarily, you don't have to write it in such a way that it can be cut. In the adaptation of the grocery tax that we just looked at, it's pretty clear the diamond story structure is there, right? We just jumped right into that interview with the small business owner who had sort of unwittingly become a pawn in the game of the grocery tax side of this issue. There was no context. There was no, recently you've been bombarded with lots of very messages about the grocery tax or anything. It was just, that story just jumped right into a specific experience. The hallmark of the diamond strategy, which you don't see too much in text. So whatever, this is just a point that after you've written your story, adapted your story, go through and try to appraise how it stands by itself. I look at that NBC story and I think, boy, they could have done at least 3 sentences of context before jumping into that interview, but they didn't, and they're the pros. So what can I say about it?
Do you think it's because they want to capture your, especially on mobile, like when things get so vertical and so long, I get kind of bored with it. If I have to keep swiping.
That's a really good point.
Scrolling, is it trying to get you right away so that you will actually read it?
That's a good hypothesis. I think a strong lead will get you better than just jumping into an interview. But
maybe there was a time element there.
It's hard to know. I mean, it would be great to talk to some of the people involved just to find out.
What was I just wondered if the headline was the equivalent of the lead. But
it's possible. The headline, the NBC Bay Area Investigative Unit reveals the tactics, the spin, the big money used to shape your opinion and your vote. So that's true, Howard. It gives us enough context so that we know at least that we're talking about grocers and this particular measure. But then it just jumps right in there. So perhaps that was the thought, that people,
And it's more dramatic to start with a person's story.
Yeah.
I
mean, that is the point of the diamond structure anyway. But I don't know. I still, I don't know. I could have used a little more context.
Grocers are caught in the middle of soda wars.
Different strokes. It's worth checking out a few more of these eventually, or maybe next class or something, just because there are some minor variations that are quite interesting. And also, if you get to a very data-rich story, my head spins when I see them on television versus when it's on a web page. Okay, I can focus and I can go back and interpret. Sometimes their TV versions really push the limits of my ability to capture information in that format. But now, okay, so let's go to the assignment and take a look at this. There's a certain amount of verbiage here, but I think that the main thing is the assignment is to adapt your TV package into an online story. We're looking at 500 words about. And what I'd like to see is that you're applying some of the insights that we came to today, however simple they are, and then thinking beyond them a little bit towards, again, put yourself in the position of the audience. So the audience is coming to your story. What more would they want to know that you didn't have the opportunity to tell them in your television package? This is especially important if you're, let's say, working at a television station. You produced the package, right? The package aired. And so you've got to think that some of your audience already saw the television package, and now they're going online for more information because they're really interested in the grocery tax. Some people go to your website just to get information without necessarily having seen your package on the news that night. So you have, you're thinking about 2 different segments of your audience. One who's seen the package, one and therefore wants more information, the other who has never seen any of it, so they're coming to it at the first glance. And that's a challenge, and I think there's no easy way to resolve that. You've just got to think it through and be sure you provide some extra information for people who need more information, but also be sure that the story is, is integral enough so that people who've never heard about it could get the main points, and so then enjoy the extra detail you've given them.
So there were things that you didn't include in your TV package, like speaking to someone briefly on their opinion or anything. Would that be okay to add?
Definitely you have the space to do that. Use your judgment as to what someone listening to this would really want to know more about. You know, rather than feature someone's opinion, which might be interesting, and you could certainly do that. Another thing might be, you know, what kind of business environment exists for, you know, that kind of company or whatever. That might give your audience something else to think about that would be more important. I don't know.
It does tie in with a lot of other things because the cost of living in San Francisco is high.
Sure, yeah.
People buy houses, houses need to be painted, and people go crazy for
Right.
the right color.
And there's a lot of money in the economy right now to do that type of work, you know. Yeah. So cool. So what do you need to hand in? Of course the story, but let's begin with a summary blurb. In other words, a headline with a 50-word summary underneath. This being, like, let's say if we go to Google and we just go grocery tax. We're talking about headline plus this little bit here, which is what shows up in all the searches, and it'll also, we'll say that it'll do double duty on the home page. Again, it all depends on what, I can't guarantee that I'm going to see exactly what I want to see here. This home page is nothing but headlines because it's sort of mobile friendly right now. Let's just look over at KPix. What's their splash page like? Everybody has been converting their home pages over to more mobile friendly formats, which, as Johanna was saying, if there's a lot of text on it, by the time it gets onto your phone, it's a pain in the ass to scroll through a lot of stuff. Come on. Is this the radio side, by the way? Probably. Okay, well, this would be what I'm talking about. So a headline plus about a 50-word blurb, okay? So this is separate from your story, right? This is just what would appear on the website, you know, on the splash page. And so the idea is to give people a sense of the story, and then they're going to link through to the actual story. Okay. So that's the first deliverable, is the summary blurb, headline 50 words. Okay, the next thing is the news story. So, you know, your main work here is to adapt the TV package. So like we said, take your TV package, pull out the quotes, put them in quotations, you know, go through the text, make them complete sentences, and so on and so forth. Contains at least one multimedia element. So people typically use a photograph in this case. You are free to use a photograph that you find in Google Images online, or a photograph of your own, or something that's being provided by, if you profiled a family member or something. And just one photo, but it could be more.
We need to be ready
if you
for
want to
whatever
add
weather may come our way.
Boom. Use the web writing style that we've been talking about. So short paragraphs, 1 or 2 sentences, split into subsections with bold, easy to understand headlines. Conversational language, active verbs, short sentences, no spelling or grammar mistakes, links in the text or at the bottom of the story to additional web resources. Clear on that? So everything we've looked at basically has that. Add additional web extra that provides new content for the web. This might be some background information that will help your readers understand your story better, such as if you were reporting on an event, maybe a profile of somebody involved in the event. If you find any information in graphic form, charts, graphs, anything like that, that you'd like to add to the story, go ahead and do that. There are also a long list of other ideas in the textbook, which I forgot to bring it in, but next class I can bring it in and we can talk about that. So we're talking about, if you adapt your 2-minute TV package, I found that usually comes into about 350 words or so. So here we're looking at a very short web extra of like 100, 150 words probably. Something extra. And then finally, think a web interactive feature, and this is really simple, all right? This might just be links in your story to appropriate extra material. Just like NBC linked to the documents that they had, can you find links to interesting stuff on the web that you could share, basically? Now, most of our stories don't have like a measure that you can provide the full text of or whatever, but look around because it's something that you could use to exploit the strong points of the web medium. Links may not do it for you. You could do other ideas here are surveys or polls, so you can ask some questions. Obviously, I don't expect answers, but you could just say, yeah, I'd like to poll my readership here and find out what they think. So reproduce that question. Or you could provide a discussion forum. If you do that, what will be the prompt in that forum? You could write a list of FAQs. So what kind of information would be useful, for FAQs? How to prepare your house for a paint job or something like that, or I don't know. If you want to go into interactive games or puzzles, how would you do that? Calendar, if this is a story with a timeline that is complex, how would you organize a calendar or something to demonstrate how the story unfolds? Or sometimes you'll see like sort of updatable news at the bottom. So these are all just things that we commonly see on the web, which are there to sort of support the main story. So I'm saying which one would be appropriate for you. And obviously, like I said, you don't have to do a quiz and then answer all the questions, but what would the questions be if you're going to do a little quiz? Yeah, Eric?
When we turn this in, do the links have to be like active, like in the document, itself?
That's, if you could pull that off, okay, but otherwise just put them at the bottom
Okay.
of the page.
Okay.
I'll show you an example in a second. So Eric's question is, it's right on track here. We're talking about format. How do you write this? Just write it in a Word document. And you can insert a photograph in a Word document pretty easily. Like, just go to insert and insert a picture. And at that point, you pick out a picture and you decide, let's see, a picture of City College. Let's put that in there. And, as simple as that. And then we could make it a little smaller or something like that. And, you can clean it up. But the point is, don't be intimidated. This is not like a web design thing or something like that. Although this would eventually end up online, I'm not asking you to do that. Okay? So that's how you would insert a picture.
You said that's on Google Docs, sorry, right?
What?
That you just did that on?
This is actually a Microsoft Word doc, but Google Docs will do the same thing. Yeah. So one picture required, let's say, but if you want to, lay out with a bunch of pictures, that's fine.
Collage of it?
Collage, yeah. No text necessary. Tell your story just with pictures. It's kind of the opposite of
Oh boy.
Okay. You never know what you'll get, but thank you for levity.
Dictionary.
Yeah. There's a couple extra things we could talk about down at the bottom, but back out here on the page for these on our website is a beautiful piece that was done by Leland before, sadly, one of our students died really unexpectedly. So this is Leland's package. Now he went above and beyond, of course, as some of you folks have on different assignments as well. So Leland did a piece. His original radio feature was on Farmers Market, Stonestown Farmers Market, and then he did his TV package, and eventually he followed it up with the web package. So the way he laid it out, and anyway, is okay, but on his first page, he also actually did this for the web because he's good at WordPress, but this is his print version, if you want, the thing that he actually turned in. So there is his headline, and here is, his 50-word summary, and then he's got the links that he provides out to other material, and then he put in his piece. So as you can see, short paragraphs, a couple of sentences. He'd used more images. That's up to you if you'd like to or not. There it is. So his story originally was on a farmer's market, and then he expanded it to cover, the sort of big business aspects. So he interviewed a product manager at Whole Foods about their organics. And then as a web extra, he provided just a little profile, again, longer than is required, a profile of 2 organic farmers. And in this case, he did not report originally. He sourced the information from somewhere else. And when you're doing that, right up next to his byline, he put the source for that original information and stuff. So again, as I said, this is well beyond what I'm asking you to do, but it's basically a great example. Yeah, Eric?
Do the photos need to have the little description, like you see how it's
little caption underneath?
Yeah.
No, they don't. They don't. I mean, it's a nice touch because sometimes we wouldn't know that that's Jim Eldon of Fiddler's Green Farm unless, but
This was on WordPress, you said?
he did this on WordPress, but this one, this may just be a PDF of what's on WordPress. I'm not sure. Let's see what comes up. He kind of laid it all out.
That was way over 500 words.
Yes, as I said, it's above and beyond. Nobody need to, yeah, there it is. So he had a photo gallery and he took these pictures himself at the event. So as I said, above and beyond, but the basic features are, what's required from the assignment there. So that's it. That's it for today. And we can, fill in the blanks next class if you have more questions or stuff. Otherwise, we'll get on to, just talking more about web extras and the interactive features that exist. Thank you.